I want to know like what took you right from there. So when you turn Row House basically over to Exponential to help you grow the business, how did you make the leap to saying, I'm going to start doing some consulting and I'm going to create Fitizens Holdings. I'm going to start helping other franchisors. What inspired you to
Well,
make that leap?
honestly, it was also in the face of adversity. Let's start there,
Of
Frank.
course, that's
Okay?
where it always starts. Let's start
Obvious.
there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was because of COVID and the pandemic, and we
Right.
all got shut down. And so I needed a new plan. I always knew that because of the exponential deal in Row House, I would move on to do something else. But
Right.
this was kind of a little bit more of a jerky, where did that come from? And it was because my market was shut down in New York City and I kind of had relocated. And truthfully, it's because I rose to be an advocate for the industry at that time and ended up on the board. It was called URSA. Now it has been retitled just recently, the National Health and Fitness Association. I ended up on that board to really kind of help rebrand the industry, to be honest, because we were being looked at as non-essential. I'm not necessarily fighting for essential, just we weren't being looked at as, bringing the physical, mental health and all of those benefits. And so we weren't protected during COVID. And so I wanted to kind of help shift that paradigm so people didn't think of the fitness industry as just meatheads anymore.
Mm.
So when I got involved with that, I kind of just naturally entrepreneur, go-getter, ended up just seeing opportunities for myself within that network. Big box gyms are great. There are some big box franchises out there, but they're not necessarily also the people that create community from the ground up. And I had recognized that I kind of became very good at that. So started to even work with some of the big box guys to help them sort out how to bring more community elements into their gyms so that they weren't losing to this boutique fitness trends, which
Right.
was starting to show up in their markets everywhere. And that's just kind of how it all got started. I took some time and answered some calls and found places where I could plug in and add value to others.
Mhm.
And, that's ultimately, I think, where I needed to make money, to be completely honest,
Sure.
obviously. So, in the face of adversity, I kind of found my next chapter in myself and have decided I will not go in on one company. I exist to serve others and have found ways that my past kind of chapters in my career kind of sort into what I'm doing now. So I am not the person that is, fractional CMO to 5 companies doing the exact same thing. I was
Mhm.
saying recently, like I can't keep my head straight that way. But when I'm working with different companies doing different things, I lit up. I could keep it all straight, and it's great. And in a lot of ways, they end up serving each other. So I do love franchising. I love the franchisees that I've come across along the way and
Mhm.
feel a passion to, helping other people be successful and find their path. And I feel like franchising really, really does that. So there's something nice about it for
Sure.
me.
That's awesome. The obviously health and wellness is one of the hottest sectors in franchising. It's not going away. There's a new fitness brand always coming on to the scene. I've interviewed, I think, a pretty high amount, percentage-wise, of all my episodes. I've interviewed quite a bit of founders in the fitness space. And you're the perfect person now to ask this question. That is this. If I was an emerging founder looking to bring my fitness business to the forefront of franchising, how in the world do I get through the clutter and separate myself from the pack that I get the attention of potential franchisees, not to mention, of course, customers. But I think first and foremost, how in the world am I going to separate myself from the pack when there are so many fitness franchisors that have entered, especially since COVID?
A couple of things come to mind. Number one, know your competitive, know the competitive landscape, know
Absolutely.
what's working, know what's not working, know who's winning, know who's not winning.
Hmm.
You need to go, do kind of secret shop places, get a sense of read job descriptions. I mean, you need to come in with some sort of true understanding of the landscape that you're walking into,
Hmm.
whatever kind of like industry or competitive set you would have. Well, and by the way, you can find experts on that, right? Like there are people, I can basically like in a hot second kind of tell you who the main players are, who's winning, who's not. It may look like a lot of people think that somebody is winning and they're not winning. You know what I mean? Like I get phone calls all the time, like this thing looks like it's blowing up. I actually heard the most recent podcast you did where they said, Soldier Fit, I believe, put on t-shirts. It was great. It was a great point. Like put on t-shirts so that it looks like you're everywhere. It's the same thing when I was back in ad tech in those days where, when you're trying to raise money or if you have people on your board, you put out of home advertising right in front of their offices. So they feel like you're everywhere and you're doing a great job. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful tactic. And I am not by any means downplaying, the relevance and importance in doing that. But when you're actually growing a brand or growing a business, do not think that brand that is in front of your face that's spending a ton of money, that's doing the Super Bowl ads or whatever, is necessarily the most profitable business on the back end. You cannot think that. So you need to, I think when I started to say be open-minded, like you need to really kind of like not run your own agenda from that standpoint. You need to take it all in and really come to a place where you like actually, understands who's doing what, because ultimately it's not to get distracted by them. It's to create your own defensibility over here, right? What is the business? How is it going to be the most defensible? If this pricing strategy isn't working over there, if they can't get labor over there at this rate, what are the key kind of drivers of the overall business? If nobody's hitting higher AUVs than X, Y, and Z dollars, right? Then as I continue to create this, is there a way for me to kind of accomplish some of those issues? And then I think you have to get very focused. I know exactly who I am. I know exactly who I'm trying to serve. And this is what I want to do. For me in the fitness industry, I think we need to be coming up with ancillary revenue. It's just a massive thing that needs to happen by design for franchisees and franchisors to be successful. That's part of the reason that I like this monetization tool, but it will be best used by somebody who builds from the bottom out with it, not by just tacking stuff on later, right? So really kind of, figuring out how to build your business in such a way that it's going to later kind of emerge. That would be something that I think is really important when you are open to whatever people are saying, what the investors are saying they're looking for. Are you tracking those types of things? If one day you need investment, do you have a dashboard that tracks those types of things? Or are you tracking the things that you think are important, which may not really be important? I put my foot in my mouth to an investor one time about that. So it's front of mind. I'm feeling good and stuff.
You have to know your KPIs, right? Know what is driving the business. And my big takeaway from what you're saying is obviously know your brand. Don't assume that just because you see somebody everywhere doesn't mean obviously that they are successful. And that includes opening locations or saying, hey, we just sold our X number of franchises. Are you seeing what I'm seeing of the amount of franchisors that are having I'm going to say it, an easy time selling franchises, but selling franchises and getting them open are two different things, right?
I think selling franchises left and right is sales, and it's sales. It's sales process. It's, having people believe the dream, and to your point, how they open and how they operate, can be different. And so what I've seen across a couple of brands that I've, touched personally is the notion of how quickly do we grow? How much do we make sure that the places that we get opened are operating successfully? And before we keep selling, the examples of Orange Theory even that sold so many and then pulled back and stopped selling before they sold more. So, I've seen different franchisors take different approaches. I want to sell, and then I'll open and then we'll tweak and we'll figure it out there. I've seen ones that are like, let's sell, open before we sell some more. This also brings up for me a little to the side of it is just who are you selling to, right? Because there are emerging franchisors that will sell to anybody. And they're selling because they're like, well, we're kind of like, thankful to them that they want to buy. It's like, okay, great. Well, is that going to be good for you long term? I mean, we don't have to just take people because we just want to, put a new location on the map, like
Right.
what's going to happen later. And then, once you have some experience in it, you get a sense of like, yep, that was a good point. It didn't really work out with that person.
Right.
I have to flip it over. So I think there's a lot of people running a lot of different strategies on that. I will say one thing though, I think that it's a really nice thing that people are, especially in the fitness world, coming from jobs or occupations where they feel like they want more.
Mhm.
And we're seeing a lot of that in fitness franchising, people who come from law, from accounting, and they have some money saved up. They maybe have, a single partner that hasn't been working, and now they want to take the opportunity to kind of invest in their community to do something that's more fun, more better for their neighborhood, by bringing a fitness or a wellness franchise in, and are thrilled to do it in a franchise system because ultimately they'll get all the support, guidance, tools, systems, and processes that they need. So that's a really nice thing. Like that's kind of a success story, right? We have
Yeah.
more of these fitness wellness businesses opening. We're selling more to those types of people. They're smart, but they want to rely on the systems, and not overthink the systems or any of those types of things to go out and do it. So in the cases where we're selling a lot of units to those people and we're stepping back to like do population health and everybody feels better and our communities are stronger and tighter. I mean, I go back to, I love that. I love that initiative.
Sure. Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.